Well, good afternoon, listeners. This is Jerry Cabrera, your host with Elevate Southwest, the STEM Road, and we have three special guests this month. Great guests, as a matter of fact. We're still talking about engineering, and this month is on mechanical engineer and how it actually some of the mechanical engineer goes to electrical engineer. It kind of works in the same somewhat fashion with including civil engineer that we had on our first podcast. We have Christian Mendez from the NAU, and he's a student at NAU, and he's studying mechanical engineering. And we have Dr. Jesus Mora, who is a professor there at NAU, and he's leading that classroom and resources there. And we have also our startup incubator, Bret Raymis with PWRJoule. He's the president and CEO, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. And actually, he's been here for about 6-7 months now, maybe 4 months, but I've been talking to him for a while now. So, Dr. Mora, I want to start with you in terms of what programs you have at NEU and how many students, or what is it leading to if we're going to open a civil engineer as well, or electrical possibly in the future. So what's going on with NEU Yuma?
Okay, so thank you for having me here. And NEU Yuma is working so hard to bring the Yuma community to provide with the mechanical engineers we need here. Also, we are, as you said, are pushing like a bit more for having civil engineers as well. But mechanical engineer is a new program. We've been here just this is the second semester, so less than a year. But we started with fancy equipment, laboratories, so we are really well prepared for having these future generations of mechanical engineers here in Yuma.
So now you started this semester, well, this past semester, and this is obviously the end of the second semester with finals and exam week and all trying to close up. So how many students are there more students for next calendar year?
Yeah, so we expect the next semester to double the
Number of students?
Yeah, so yeah, we started with like 4 students, and we are moved to 11 in the next semester. So we're trying to
advertise and get the word out as far as
Yes.
what students can expect going into NAU, and actually through AWC and then NAU, which many of the students have done that. Have you done that, Christian?
Yep, I went straight through Arizona Western College my first 2 years, and then I transferred over to NEU Yuma, and it's a really nice partnership. Saves a lot of cost and time.
That's excellent news to hear that from a student. Have you enjoyed the class, or would you right now as the professor? Hopefully the classes, the grades are in. I'm going to ask you. Have you enjoyed the class, or what would you like to see different, or anything like that?
So far, it's been a really fun class, mainly because it's a small group, and so we get a lot of interpersonal communication between us students and the professor. And so we're working a lot of hands-on. We're doing a lot of industry practices starting immediately when we start. We don't have to wait a little bit for theory and then maybe get the lecture.
Yes.
Maybe get like the workplace experience, but we're starting immediately. You start, okay, here's the things, here's how it's transitioned into a career. Here's what real world engineers do. And it's been pretty much a fun semester, and probably will be even more funner as we get to let's say the more interesting classes.
What does that mean?
the toughest
the toughest class?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So that means you already completed 1 year. So you did 2 years at AWC,
2 years.
Arizona Western College, and then 1 year at NEU Yuma for mechanical engineer. Do you have 1 more year left, or how does that work? Is it another 2 years? To get your bachelor's, not your certification, because you still have to get your certification. That's a test, right? A state test or national test. So because you're going to be a senior next year, correct?
Yeah, and so depending on like availability of classes, hopefully we're looking for graduating within 2 years, but that's probably the likely target that we have. But if it takes more, then it is what it is. But we're here at NEU, it looks like we're on track to at least meet the 2 years deadline.
Oh, that's excellent news. That's excellent news. And that's what people kind of were sometimes worried about that issue, but the average person to get a degree usually takes about, we say 4 years, but it's 6 years.
Yeah.
Your studies have shown it's about 6 years. We'll take a semester off or whatever, then ends up a year off, but normally it's about 6 years, but that's great news. And that actually leads to a question with Brent Raymis and PWRJoule and getting that life experience. So Brett, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you have cooking here next door with PWRJoule?
All right, well, we started PWRJoule about 6 years ago to develop a new type of revolutionary battery. It's called a magnetic flow battery. And it's going after large scale energy storage. We're going after 1 megawatts worth of power for 10 hours. It's a big venture, no doubt, but I'm living in Yuma, Arizona, and I love it here, and I want to bring jobs and help Yuma prosper in this area. I think we're generally mostly agricultural in this area. And so I want to bring some new technology and hopefully build and bring in the engineering aspects of it and grow up. Our battery won't be ready for about another 2 years. So in the meantime, I'm really excited about bringing in the universities here and students to grow with the company and hopefully manufacture these large batteries here in Yuma, Arizona.
Well, thank you very much. And that's one of our programs here at Elevate Southwest is to help startup companies and also help the students with real life. So we do have those internship programs, and we obviously will pay the students to help startup companies like yours to make sure they thrive and be successful and have job opportunities for Christian to stay here in Yuma County and have the opportunity to continue his engineering degree and make fortune, right? Because we expect him to pay well.
Please. Looking for people to get in the ground floor. I'm really looking for the young people to drive the company forward.
No, I think that will definitely will happen specifically because of NEU Yuma mechanical engineer. We also have obviously the University of Arizona on their systems engineering program, but the mechanical itself is quite specific enough to make sure that it works for PWRJoule. So now, how is the mechanical engineering program itself? How does it help you in terms of your needs with PWRJoule?
Well, it's the aspect of getting the engineers in so they understand it, because this technology is very new, and getting someone into the ground floor who's started and knows what it is all the way to the point where it goes to production will be, I think, a key to success of the company. The right type of person especially who lives here, wants it to grow and develop something that's really cool.
So going after that, in terms of, obviously we want to make sure that there's plenty of jobs here in Yuma County. Tell us a little bit about your history, because I know that, speaking with you several times and regarding your career itself, you actually manufactured or designed some of the chips that we're using. Is it GE or?
No, it's Qualcomm.
Qualcomm. Oh, that's right,
Qualcomm
Qualcomm.
and Motorola. So my career starts 40 years ago. I came out of the military. And I went in there for the GI Bill, and what happened was I got a chance for an interview at Bell Laboratories, and I was already planning to go to university, Embry-Riddle University down in Florida for aviation. And what happened was I went for this interview for affirmative action for Bell Laboratories, and it just blew me away how cool the CAD work was going on back 40 years ago, and it was cutting edge, and I decided to just jump in there and do that. And I hadn't really thought about my career so much as far as my college education, even though I was accepted for a university. So I just kept on working at Bell Laboratories, and I progressed to other high technology areas. But then it ended up hurting me to some degree because I didn't have a degree. Many times I got passed over for a management role because I didn't have a degree. So it didn't stop me necessarily, and here I am, CEO of a company. But there are people in this world that go on without a degree, but I still think degree would have helped me.
So that was one of your barriers in order to get to where you maybe wanted to
Yes,
be at in terms
yes.
of that company. So what would you recommend for Christian in terms of, obviously he is at college, which you didn't, but he's almost they're 3/4 of the way to completing.
Stay
the
with
degree.
it, stick with it. Keep going. Just get that degree, get at least that 4-year degree. It's really important.
So at the last conversation we had with Matt McGuire from JV Farms, one of the things that he did discuss, and I want to discuss that with all you three because it's important to hear what he had stated. Because one thing is you end up getting a degree on whatever subject area, right? And then you might end up working somewhere else that it's closely related, but never thought that road would have taken you to where you were at this point. Would you agree in terms of?
I definitely agree. I mean, I would never thought I'd be working as a CEO of a battery company in Yuma, Arizona. If you asked me that 20 years ago, that would never be, I would have thought, I would have laughed at you. Here I am with, in a podcast with you, and we're talking about students and things like that. So I'm just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dr. Mora and Christian and the other colleagues of yours, Christian, will definitely help PWRJoule and other companies that may want this type of assistance as interns. Just give us a shout out and email. We'll definitely try to help you. And from that perspective of Brent, how Dr. Mora, because you're Dr. Mora, how did you end up in this road? Because I'm assuming that you never thought that you were going to be a professor at NEU. Maybe you were going to be somewhere else.
No.
And you...
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
No, when I study chemical engineering, that's my bachelor's degree. I studied because it was fun for me, was exciting, and just because it liked me so much, right?
So how's chemical engineering exciting?
Well, you have explosions.
Oh, okay, there we go. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, but I never teach how to do that. Right?
Okay.
So I have.
So you learned it.
Yeah, I know, but just a bit. I'm not, explosive, but anyways, I started because it was fun for me, and then when I went out from my career, I realized that in Mexico, I come from Mexico, they weren't like a lot of companies were doing research. I like research. I like to do research. So then I thought, so I don't like the kind of jobs available for me. So I started a master's degree. And when I enrolled in the program, they invited me to teach a chemistry class. Okay, so I used to stay working for a university, and I was a teacher, and at the same time, I work for the liaison department, which is a lot of contact with companies and research projects as well in the engineering school in University of Baja California. And I stick to that growing path to become a full-time teacher, become a full-time researcher. Then I scaled that up to a manager level, and then I realized that as a manager of different processes in the university, I didn't kind of like that much because I like more to be in the lab or having those crazy ideas to come into life.
Idea, right?
Yeah. And then I decided to get a doctorate, a PhD on thermodynamics, because I got a master's degree in thermodynamics. And I just move on to the.
So what is thermodynamics for our listeners? We don't have a PhD in thermodynamics, so teach me a little bit about thermodynamics. What does that all entail?
It's thermodynamics is a branch of physics that deals with energy, with how to extract energy and how to use energy, and how to store energy as well, right?
Yes, you're very intrigued about what we're doing. He is, because his electrochemical background, he has a lot of things that can bring to bear for PWRJoule.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's. So in itself, wow, you got a PhD or a chemical engineering, a bachelor's of chemical engineering. What was your master's in?
Thermodynamics. as well.
thermodynamics, and then you got your thesis on thermodynamics and got your
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah.
So how does that transfer over to Christian that he wants to be a mechanical engineer?
Okay, I don't know if this is that I should say that good for them at the first level, because I think that sometimes I kind of overcomplicated some exercises in class.
Is that true? Is that true, Christian?
Maybe just a little.
But you still had fun, right?
Yeah, definitely fun class.
But the most important part of this is that I can communicate real life problems. So instead of sticking to the textbook exercises or problems, I just take from my previous experiences and I try to match physics with math and with money at the same time. So
Okay.
instead of asking them, oh, can you calculate the energy you can store in this battery? No, I would ask, oh, you're the CEO of a battery company, and then your battery runs at this temperature, and then you have a slightly different change in temperature. So how much money are you, losing by this change in temperature, right? So
Okay.
it's like translating physical ideas into some equations, and then at the end of the day, we have to work with money, right?
So you do also do a little bit of project management in itself because you
Yes.
obviously involves budget and making sure
Yeah.
that everything
Yeah.
does work within budget at that point.
Yeah, and that's why I say sometimes I overcomplicate some exercise for them. It's too easy to get, oh, this is just a kilowatt or 1 megawatt. No, you have to, run all your analysis and end up with some figures related to money.
Yeah. So Christian, you heard from Dr. Mora. He was a chemical engineer, and then a doctorate in thermodynamics, and then obviously Bret, who skipped a little bit of college, but he got to where he's at, but because of experience and knowledge and also enjoying it. Where do you see yourself a couple of years from now in terms of using your mechanical engineering degree? And 5-10 years from now, where do you see yourself at that point? I know it's early. I mean, the road takes us in different ways. It took me. I mean, I was from assistant. I was a teacher from to director, assistant superintendent, city manager, and here I am. And I've been enjoying it across. But the road takes you to different roads, I guess, right? Different ways and different roadmaps. But where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Hopefully, I still plan to stay here, at least in Arizona, and maybe still at least continue being here in Yuma because it's a fun community here, and I've grown up here most of my life, and I kind of want to be able to pay the Yuma community back with getting my mechanical engineering degree, and in terms of careers or jobs, I've been looking a little bit throughout, let's see, like the defense industry here with YPG, the Marine Corps, things like that. But I think what I really want to do is start something new here in Yuma, or at least help someone out, because honestly, the best companies here are the ones that started here. They know the whole community. They know who is who, what we need to do, what humans want. And honestly, that probably be what I want to strive for. Stay here and be able to help pay back everyone who's helped me along the way.
Oh, wow, that says a lot about our community. Definitely that our community appreciates all of our education system and appreciates the hard work that the students do in order to get to a career that they really want. And I'm glad to hear that because it's a positive thing that we all want to give back to our community. We all want to give back to our kids. We want to give back to the future more than anything else, because you are the future, and it's here. And the future brings us to a lot of questions to make sure we have the right recipe. So within that same recipe, we will fail. That was our last discussion too. It's failures. And I know that Bret failed several times when he was designing his chips. And I'm sure you did as well when you consulted with the companies or whatnot. How a percentage or numbers that you feel that you failed.
Oh, wow.
Not the personal stuff, not personal stuff. Just on
Well, there's been a
design.
few failures along the way. I've in my semiconductor career, there's been a few. But now in the semiconductor, they have many checks and balances, they check everything because in the early days, they didn't have all the software to check everything. Now there's many more software and tools and that run, and they check everything before.
Like AI, even though the AI doesn't have
Yes,
all, it's just a tool.
I'm using AI now all the time. I mean, so it helps me in what I do. So I rely on software, and I'm relying on, for instance, what's going to be the interface with his students and with a professor here is that we're going to be using a software, SolidWorks. That's the main platform. We're going to make CAD files, and we're going to run thermodynamics on it. We're going to run everything through TED. So the more software we have, the more checks that we can eliminate more failures. But there's still going to be some along the way. I mean, look at Boeing as an example. I mean, right now they finally got they're going to lift their rocket up with 2 people in it, and they're years behind because they had lots of failures. Who would have thought that Boeing would be doing what it's doing? But so I expect to have lots of failures along the way.
So it's,
You learn from
but it's an expectation to learn during
You
the.
have to learn through failures. I mean, otherwise you're not really pushing the envelope. So we're going to push the envelope in batteries. I just hope we don't have any explode. Along the way, our battery is supposed to be aqueous based with water and iron particles. So it's supposed to be very safe. But there's still going to be electrical and other parameters around there. We don't know until we build one fully, the big one, and hopefully it runs and it doesn't explode.
So you heard that from a gentleman that's been in the business for, 40 years, and then obviously now 50 with in terms of what he has tried to accomplish. Failure is a big one of the learning. So Dr. Mora and Christian, in terms of what happens in the classroom of teaching failure and it's okay to fail, nothing wrong with it, but obviously not on your exam, right? But but in terms of how does that get taught in the classroom on the failure portion of your experiments or failure of some sort of design or what have you within that threshold? Is there a threshold, or what do you expect on those failures?
Okay, I think, well, I want to comment that I may distinguish 2 types of failures, right?
Perfect, yes.
So, the first one is the kind of failure that will take you away from your objective, right? Or at least the idea of the final goal, right? And the other one is a kind of failure that will take you slightly away, but it will take you to another, place or goal that you wouldn't expect it, right? But it happens from time to time that it's a better goal, a better place. Okay, so if you ask me, a kind of percentage of that, thanks God, most of the time I get the type 2 failures, right? I never thought that I will be here in Yuma teaching for NAU, but when I realized that being a teacher is not just producing some parts, some stuff, you're like helping others to get a better life. And when you improve someone's life, then you'll automatically kind of pushing all the people around people.
Yeah, yourself, yes.
Yes. So it's like you're working for being supportive to a better future, for a thriving society, and probably that's a lot better than just making experiments, right? So for me, it's like, I'm not doing experiments, every day and every year, but for me, it's teaching is better than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and since I'm aware of that, I try to communicate my students with that idea. I always tell them I'm not, kind of the I do know stuff. I'm just a regular person, right? So I'm a human. So
Yeah.
when I have some mistake in the whiteboard, I ask them, okay, you can just say, hey, teacher, you're wrong. So and I will appreciate that. So I say, thank you. I didn't realize that. So yeah, I just erase and just move forward. And if they answer something that's not completely right, I always tell them, hey, you are here for that because you have a chance to fail here because we don't want you to fail on your job, right? So this is the right time for failing.
It's interesting because people do point out your failures, but they never point out all the good things that you did and all the right answers, right?
Yeah.
That never gets pointed out, even though you've done it right. But that one time that you failed,
Yeah.
definitely someone's gonna tell you about it.
Yeah.
So, Christian, tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, you graduated from Cibola High School here in town. I say town, but it's the city, right? So how did you get to decide that this is a career for you?
So yeah, like mentioned, I'm proud Cibola Raider, class of 2021. And so it was pretty much fresh out of the pandemic. We were still a little bit of lockdown stuff, but I started at Arizona Western College about fall 2021, and I apparently didn't know what I was gonna start with throughout high school. I just took whatever classes I thought were the funnest ones. So I was doing some psychology classes, some economics classes, some biology classes. And so when I started here at Arizona Western College, my primarily two goals that I was focusing on was just get an associate's of business, and that's where I officially started. And then I took a couple of math classes, and then I also became a math major.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't know that I was going to start with engineering my first semester, and then took a couple of math classes. I realized that it's a fun subject, and I want to kind of know what can I apply these tools in the real world? Can I apply these in science? And then spoke with a couple of my professors, and they pointed me towards engineering. And so I think my third semester at Arizona Western College, I started looking into my engineering classes, and I officially became an engineering major because I was kind of afraid, what am I gonna do after I get my associates? Because it was either stop at the associates or go to a big city, go to Tucson, go to Flagstaff. And then I pretty much graduated right on time for them to announce, hey, we have a mechanical engineering program. And so then I was like, there is an option for me to stay here in Yuma, save some money, and not have to move to such a far place from my family. And so even though I started as a business major, I eventually saw my interest and became an engineering major. And now this is pretty much wrapping up the first year here at NU Yuma.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's a road. And he
Yeah.
made those changes early on, which a lot of the kids do nowadays. And, and it's okay to change.
Yes.
And it's okay to, make sure that you moved on. So I'm gonna go back a little bit to, with your assistance, maybe all three of you. And for the regular person like myself, in terms of what does 1 megawatt of power mean to the household?
Well, 1 megawatt can usually supply enough power for 650 to 750 homes,
Oh, wow.
depending on the climate. So we're going to store enough energy in a 40-foot container for approximately, do it for 10 hours. So it's very dense as far as energy density. So that's what our plans are.
Oh, okay.
We won't know yet for sure, but that's our plan. So 1 megawatt for 10 hours.
1 megawatt for 10 hours. Okay, so that's what it means.
So maybe we could have 15 of these and it would supply almost enough supply energy for the all of Yuma.
Okay. Christian, does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Dr. Ramona did the right.
That's only during the summertime, but because the electricity goes up, but the population goes down because the snowbirds aren't here, so we lose half the population roughly. So, so it kind of works out. It's always going to be probably the same because of the weight down.
What Christian said is that's the right number, right? So,
Yeah.
I believe it.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So I'm really glad that you, that both of you, came over, and obviously, Brenda's always here.
Yes.
So that's been a positive, thing for us. And, being from Yuma myself, always been here, raised here. I did go to, out of town and for a year or so, then came back because of the opportunities that were here as well, like yourself, man. I didn't need to leave the city to get a career. Obviously, there's a lot of careers that we need to leave just because of that specific career in itself. With my parents, were supportive. They didn't tell me, hey, you have to go here, you have to go there, right? They were just supportive in my career. And so have your parents been supportive or your family been supportive, which I assume you look like they've been very supportive of you. But within that itself, has there been any barriers within your family or yourself that's, step back and said, maybe I need to wait or not wait and discuss because of the failures itself and the barriers that come with it.
And so probably like one of the biggest barriers is most likely cost, because not everyone might have a family that may be willing to support them. But one of the things that depend a lot on is the generous scholarships that we have, and that's pretty much what's funded everything. And outside of maybe cost, maybe a second might be time, because some students might have to commute all the way from Imperial, all the way from El Centro, all the way from San Luis.
Yes.
And so they don't have the same 24 hours that someone that lives right on campus might. And even then, my first year at AWC, I didn't have a car. And so it was either a 25-minute drive or a 2-hour bus ride. And so from here just to my home I was thinking a lot of time just on the bus, where there's no fancy desk or anything. So it was just stand up, hope they didn't hit the brakes hard enough.
So when you were doing your homework, I'm assuming at the bus for 2 hours,
For 2 hours.
That's quite a bit. So those are some of the barriers that people go through, but you went through them and here you are, you're still kind of fighting the struggle, if you will, making sure that you elevate that mind to get that grind going. So I'm really proud of you that you've done this for yourself and looking at that road, which more probably a part of our community have done such a great deal in order to assist students like yourself to assist, obviously with NEU Yuma here, and obviously we support NEU Yuma like the other universities as well. But I'm glad that Dr. Mora is here and helping, and Bret obviously here in our system. So I do want to point out that we have this internship program, like I mentioned before, and helping the students get real life experience. And so if there's anybody out there that is starting a company and wants to do research and development within our area, it doesn't have to be batteries, it could be something totally different. But we do have the funds available to assist in internships. As long as these are STEM related type of activities, will help the company to succeed, because we want them to stay here. We want them to manufacture, kind of like what Bret is doing. He wants definitely to stay here because he's loved to grow this Yuma region, the greater Yuma region to great lengths and strides in terms of what we've been accomplishing here in Yuma County. Obviously, we have this innovation hub where you guys are going to be at, and I'm sure that you'll have lots of fun with other companies. Even Mexicali and San Luis wants to come into the innovation hub, because we know that companies out there have soft landings, and we want those companies to also stay here in Yuma County. So I'm really proud. Is there any questions you have for us, Christian, or Bret, or Dr. Mora?
Probably the biggest question is 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how will engineering look here in Yuma?
Dr. Mora, you're the researcher, Bret?
Also, the question is for me is lots of engineers. I need lots of engineers, and you could be a manager, or even I tell most of the people that are coming in my company right now. Currently, I have 7 PhDs working for the company. And I tell these people, if you have the motivation and you want to be the CEO of the company, just hang in there, and you could be the CEO in your lifetime. So there's going to be electrical engineers, chemical engineers, there's going to be thermal engineers, I guess there's going to be all kinds of engineers, manufacturing jobs that are going to be necessary to make this happen. And there's going to be, I project 200 to 250 employees at the same time.
You mentioned a little bit about the tools that you use for your project. Dr. Mora, if the project's in 5 years from now, like Christian asked for, do you think obviously AI is a great tool to use to assist? Does it make it easier in the classroom? will it make it easier 5 years from now? The different type of tools that are definitely coming down the pipeline in order to assist the mechanical engineer, person or civil or electrical. Is that where you perceive this coming, or you see other research and development that's coming down the pipeline that maybe in 3-4 years that'll definitely take over or assist?
Definitely AI is a huge tool, right?
Yeah.
So we are just scratching the surface, right? But probably the most relevant tool for engineering projects is simulation tools such as SolidWorks,
Okay.
such as CFD, ANSYS Fluent, and there are a lot of different software right there. But simulation will prevent you for failure, right? So you'll have a kind of a recipe for the right solution, right? So if you are able to simulate, you have the right parameters so close to the real world parameters you
I
need,
can tell you an example, okay? In my business, I just had an email from one of my lead CTO, and we just brought a person into the company that is right now, I've been pushing for AI and simulating the environment of our parameters and modeling things. We could have shaved off 1 year to 2 years. We could probably have a product already in the works right now. But what didn't exist then, and the AI wasn't really evolving to where it is right now. And so it's going to be very important to simulate and emulate everything that's going on there in the future.
Yeah, and AI will save you a lot of time as well, because
Failures.
before AI was applied to simulation tools such as SolidWorks or Fluent, ANSYS Fluent, we would require probably days for having a good simulation of some, experiment, right? But nowadays you can run the same simulation in 15 minutes, half hour.
Okay.
So it's so fast, and that will bring you, the capability of performing more simulations in the same time frame, right? So you can just have the information faster and better. And sometimes we are running against time.
Yeah, that's very true. One thing that I went to ASU's simulation room. They have a simulation area. One thing is for them to make sure that the AI tool doesn't get used in unethical ways, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so what they're doing is make-believe worlds.
Mhm.
And in that make-believe world, they'll put in some barriers, issues, and failures, and you have to find out those failures, which is really interesting. That way, for the student itself, you're not using AI to fix your subject matter there, but it's interesting because exactly what you said, that's coming down closer and closer for everyone to use more than it was before.
And additionally, teachers will be forced to change the way they teach, right?
Yes.
Because if you just ask for some exercise or problem solution, then, they can go to ChatGPT and then ask for the solution, right? But if you have, a water bottle and say, can you predict the time for this water to eventually go into the half of the bottle, then without any tools, right? So you just have your hands. So that's a different,
Yes.
scenario. And then we must move forward to that experience in real life rather than textbook, exercises.
Yes.
So I think that's better. That's a
Yeah,
way
it
better.
is. My wife has an uncle. He's a civil engineer. He graduated from Stanford. And it's interesting, his mindset, how it works. So actually, Mayor Doug, he's a chairman as well. Doug Nichols, he mentioned this issue that he resolved in his head. He didn't use any paper pencil. He had to convert, I believe, from your regular inches and feet into a metric system. He did it all in his head. I don't know how he did it, but he did it, and he got it right. So it was interesting how, and there was a lot of things that he had to correct, well, not correct, but change it from from the US system into a metric system. So it's interesting how that but you're right. You have to still use your mind and use the other tools given to you to fix more of the time that's gonna cost you, because it's at the end of the day, it's cost to make sure that you have those rights. So I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you very much. And anything you need, please let us know. We'll make sure that we can assist you, and appreciate your time again. And thank you for everybody for listening and watching Elevate Southwest, the STEM Road. If you have any questions or questions regarding internships and startup companies and incubators, please give us a call and look at our website at www.elevatesouthwest.org.